And the now world number 4, Brooks Koepka, will be the first U.S. Open champion to play the Travelers since Justin Rose did so the week after he won at Merion in 2013. All told, it's a stacked field. 51 players who competed at Shinnecock Hills last week have made the 175-mile journey from Southampton, New York to Cromwell, Connecticut. We're back here at our Golf Channel headquarters in Orlando, Florida. I'm Cara Banks, happy to be alongside Chantal McCabe for the next 60 minutes.
Yeah, it was just a quick little flight for them from New York to Connecticut, and a good chunk of the field coming off of playing a major, including the champion Brooks Koepka, who was the last to leave the course on Sunday with dozens of media obligations. He squeezed in as much enjoyment and downtime with the trophy. Victory is sweet, but it can be very exhausting. Let's check in now with George Savaricas, who's live at the Travelers. And George, what's Brooks been up to in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, Chantel, since we saw him with the trophy on Sunday night at Shinnecock, he flew back to South Florida with his family, friends, his girlfriend, and his swing coach, Claude Harmon, to decompress and really relish the fact that he was able to win back-to-back U.S. Open titles for the first time since Curtis Strange did it in 1988-89. The most important thing, though, for Brooks was his mom, Denise, was not on hand at the U.S. Open, so he really wanted to share that celebration with her. As far as when we're going to see him this week at the Travelers Championship, he reached out to the PGA Tour. He has withdrawn from the Pro-Am on Wednesday. The Tour understandably giving him a waiver with all the media obligations that he's had to face since winning his second career major championship. Brooks Koepka, part of a lot of star power we're going to see at TPC River Highlands. We have 5 of the top 10 players in the world. What a revitalization it has been for this event. If you sneak in Patrick Reed, who we're going to hear from later on Golf Central, that is 6 of the top 11.
Speak about another man in this week's field. He actually ended up in the final pairing at the U.S. Open on Sunday. Daniel Berger, how prepared was he for that moment at Shinnecock on Sunday?
Well, building toward that all his life. You know, as you said, first time in the final group on Sunday, and talking to his swing instructor, Jeff Leishman, tonight, as he was giving Berger a putting lesson. The quote, he wasn't freaked out, he wasn't overly uncomfortable, validated where he wants to be to contend in more of these things. You know, he was real close to making a move on Sunday. Birdie 10, stuffed at 11, missed the putt, horseshoed 1 at 13, still got a T6 out of it. And you look at the arc of his career, you know, going maybe in reverse order. Clinches the President's Cup last year for the United States. Of course, if Spieth doesn't hold that bunker shot, you know, that didn't break his heart, though. You know, he came back from that. And you think about 10th in his first Masters. He's been, you go back to his days as a kid. His dad was number 7 in the world in tennis. He's hanging around guys like Lendl, Roddick, you know, so when he gets in situations like that, he's used to, you know, handling pressure. He'd give out at the Die Preserve when he was picking a range, he'd get in the face of tour players and take money off them and sometimes lose money. And that's how you learn to play yourself into competitive spots, high pressure spots like he was on Sunday at the U.S. Open.
No doubt he'd like to make the Ryder Cup team this year.
Well, I know, no doubt, Jim Furyk would like to see him on the team. He's a competitive guy, obviously. He's not going to shrink under pressure. He likes the big moment, and he can play with noise, not only crowd noise, but the noise inside his head.
Yeah, that President's Cup last year was his pro debut, and you talk pro team debut. Right. You talk about people going back to back. We can't forget that Daniel Berger actually went back to back last year. He successfully defended the FedEx St. Jude, which was his first win on the PGA Tour in 2016. Well, speaking of which, let's go back out to TPC River Highlands, where our own George Savaricas caught up with Daniel Berger a bit earlier today, fresh off of that tie for 6th in the year's second major. George, how was he?
Yeah, Cara, I think it would be hard to call any guy who finished 72 holes at Shinnecock Hills and that slog that we saw in the U.S. Open fresh at the moment, but he's definitely excited and likes where he's at mentally, because that tie for 6, his best career finish in a major, and he can finally see where he can take his golf game on the biggest pressure moments going forward. That, coupled with the fact he's back at a place that he was runner-up a year ago, has him in good spirits.
It was one of the best experiences of my professional career so far, and I feel like I'm going to be in such a better place next time I'm in that position, having felt those emotions and kind of gone through it. Never played in the final round, in the final group of a major championship, so I'm just excited. It was a good direction in the right direction, I would say. So I'm excited.
What was your biggest takeaway from last year, being a part of that?
You got to hit the right shot at the right time, I guess. But, you know, it's tough to take too much away from it negatively. It was more positive stuff, you know. That was my second playoff that I had been in, and I think just all these experiences you just learn from, and I think like last week, having learned from that, I feel like that's even going to make me a little bit better this week. So I'm excited to get going.
There's a bit of unfinished business for Daniel Berger here at the Travelers Championship. He told me at the forefront of his mind is to conserve energy coming off the U.S. Open. And with what he's done the last couple years, finishing 5th and holding that 3-shot lead going into the final round at the Travelers, runner-up a year ago, he feels this course is perfectly suited for him, and he wants to save that energy for the weekend to finish the job.
All right, George, thank you. Let's take a look at some notable tee times. And Berger does go early at 7:50 a.m. Eastern alongside Jason Day. And last year's Rookie of the Year, who just finished in the top 6 at the U.S. Open for a second straight year, that is Xander Schauffele. The most recent major champion, Brooks Koepka, is in the group behind them alongside Masters champion Patrick Reed and Players champion Webb Simpson. And Rory McIlroy may not like these star-studded tee times, but he continues to be a part of them with Justin Thomas and Bubba Watson this week. And for more insight on Brooks Koepka and Daniel Berger, we turn to the men's head golf coach at Florida State University, who worked with both players during their years as Seminoles. Trey Jones joins us this evening, and what a big week it was, Trey, for FSU at the U.S. Open. Of course, Brooks Koepka went back-to-back, and Daniel Berger contended in that final pairing on Sunday. We know they've both previously triumphed on the PGA Tour, but can you tell us what type of players they were when you coached them in college?
Well, all players are different, and both power players, obviously. But I'll start with Brooks. Brooks was a kind of a slow learner in a way of wins. He didn't have any wins until he did not win until his senior year, and then he won 3 times. Daniel started off slow his freshman year, and by the time he finished his freshman year, he might have been our best player on the team, along with Brooks at Riviera. So then Daniel went on the second year to be runner-up at the NCAA championship. So obviously quick learners and very talented.
It's interesting, Brooks spoke last week about being under the radar, but actually both of them have said before that they feel like they're a little bit underappreciated when it does come to the big names in the game. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I think both of their personalities, they don't seek limelight. When Brooks won the U.S. Open last year, he did not do the media tour. So if he is under the radar, he's kind of put himself under the radar a little bit, that he doesn't look for the attention. And Daniel's the same way. They're both private people and want to go about their own business. But I think from our standpoint, they're not under the radar.
They're both multiple winners on the PGA Tour, so I guess to that point, how can they be? Daniel, of course, has 2. Brooks has 3, 2 of which are now major championships. But what do you expect from both of these guys in the future?
I expect Daniel to put himself in the situation again and to learn from that. Brooks' first U.S. Open, he finished 4th at Pinehurst. And so Daniel's going to get back there and give himself an opportunity to win. You don't always get to control your destiny, but he'll have more opportunities. And I think you'll see Brooks, every time there's a big event where the conditions get tough, he's going to be right around because he really looks forward to that opportunity.
We appreciate you joining us and giving a little more insight on these 2 talents on the PGA Tour. Trey Jones, thank you.
Thank you for having me.